My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only, and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Nine Victor Apple Sam 217. Meeting right here, stalking to engage in sexual assault and battery. This is J Street and Euclid Avenue. The sex offenders that are repeating that sex offense over and over and over again, engaging in what is psychopathic pacing and doing so, stalking. Doing so with the city of Ontario that you know is stalking as I travel north of Euclid Avenue, plane after plane. And the entity's doing that also while I'm walking through the neighborhood with demons that are stalking with light activity, like I documented. Rig. The tractor that's attached to the white male driving the white vehicle is light activity. And this is the entity that's engaged in sexual assault and battery with the state. All right, in Euclid Avenue. All right, this is relevant to prosecuting the people of the state. I've documented hundreds and hundreds of them, and they're all being federally prosecuted. This is P.O.C. I'm gonna go ahead and add a license plate onto this as well. This is, by the way, 1004, where the entity is stalking with light, monitoring, in other words, are also at this venue, stalking in the path, stalking me with the people of the state at 1004 Euclid Avenue, license 5JXK625. This is P.O.C. And this is indeed the specific environment. While I have multiple shadows and sex offenders are engaged in this conduct while they're stalking through the neighborhood with the government maintaining aerial surveillance, and 8th Street is documented, many of them, and I'll be publishing it. This is P.O.C. Hi. here we are over the same venue. And this is documenting the entity engaged in what is a failed effort. Their criminal defamation will be the only purpose behind gang stalking through those in the medical field that will not be in any courtroom testifying to the target individual's mind state. They're going to be federally prosecuted for being in that field and incorporating it in the federal group stalking and monitoring. Nonetheless, Stanbridge University, just like West Coast, that Ovid Family Community Library, are stalking under the fake sun, not engaged in empathy, engaged in cruelty, violence, psychopathic behaviors, and engaging in that which is demonstrating, exhibiting the unfit ability to be in the medical field, targeting. Excuse me. Here we go. The entity has the fake sun over me at the same time while I am walking toward the Ovid Family Community Library at 1:07 p.m. The fake sun is over the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. It's directly over the building over the top of my head at 1:07 p.m. as I'm at the entrance of the Ovid Family Community Library at 1:08 p.m. That fake sun is moving as I move. There is no sunlight. There is no sun object, contrary to what you're seeing here, while the entity is targeting through Stanbridge University, engaging in this method of what is harassment and targeting through those that are in the medical field who will be engaged in no practice of medicine. You will not be being an LVN or an RN. You will not be practicing at any level in the medical field, as I have shown that they are engaged in the pattern of conduct with the state. Stanbridge University are incorporating their job. They're here escorting the mentally challenged, the unhealthy. Nonetheless, they're here incorporating it. So that is Stanbridge University, not just those that are students engaged in that vocation at the venue. So I want to be clear on that. They are engaged in gang violence in the bathroom, vagina monitoring. They're doing so while intentionally wearing these scrubs. This is the entity that does so as I publish very damning evidence regarding the city of Upland gang stalking me. And then the entity that is mentally ill that are wearing scrubs, meaning they're in the medical field, which is exactly what my case shows. These are the demon-possessed that are being removed, the terrorists that are being removed from the pattern, from the ability to engage in this pattern of conduct. They're engaged in that pattern of conduct while they are simultaneously abusing those positions that they are in with regard to the state system. This is P.O.C. Those demons are not coincidentally, but pursuant to knowledge, pacing, going up the stairs in engineer light under the fake sun that's in Upland, California, and at the same time 24 hours ago in Ontario, California. This is P.O.C. Just so that you know, this is stalking, all right? And so is everyone crossing path, and this is a demon. They're all demons. This demon is engaged in audible activity, relevant positioning, and light activity. This is P.O.C. The demon-possessed have absolutely no business in the positions that they're in. They're going to be removed from that. They are a threat to the public, including while the public engages in criminal activity with the entity, the city of Upland. This is stalking. License 9LHE929, and they engage in this while they're monitoring vagina in the bathroom of IHOP as well. The entity does so via MetroLink. It's the same elements of monitoring. The entity's engaging in this, and I want to be clear, in the same way that the public's engaged in criminal activity, the public is being federally prosecuted. Every license plate, every address, every business, everyone that I documented, the ease with which the convenience of gang stalking, the flip of that malice, is the massive amount of documentation accumulated to not only prosecute, to document and expose, where you around the world and you in the United States will be able to refer to this documentation, this record, and look up what these government officials were engaging in, look up what the public were engaging in. You will be able to look up the government, because their addresses, that's the address of the entity, the public entity. And you need to know where terrorists are located. You need to know what their identities are. You need to know where the terrorists are engaging in, what are means of criminal activity, the city, that state, their location, and what they were engaging in. That's exactly what the P.O.C. provides. Okay, I want to document, in particular, pay attention to the evidence. The entity that's engaged in surveillance on the roads and the highways, San Antonio Regional Hospital, that likes to engage in terrorism in Upland, California in particular, they're going to be federally prosecuted. So while they're engaging in gang stalking right here, which is no coincidence, you're stalking as a hospital, that's what they were doing, which is kidnapping with AMR, by the way. That's engaged in facilitation. These silly games are going to result in those with letters like MD behind their name going to prison. I don't know how funny that is, but that's going to be the result. San Antonio advertising its own federal prosecution by crossing path with me on this video. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:12 p.m. There are no statute of limitations regarding criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder by the government. There certainly are not any statutes of limitations when you are still currently gang stalking. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:12 p.m. This is 80 A Street, all right, at A Street in Euclid, P.O.C. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. This is Hawthorne and Euclid Avenue, where the terrorist leader Mike Lorenz, just like Marcelo Blanco, are stalking me as a whole department. And these are also two departments that committed kidnapping, and they are stalking with these demons that sling light. It's not their headlights. And they're engaging in this is very clear targeting, flying over the top of my head. This is what Southwest Airlines does as well. The gang stalking airport that has no terminals, where they will be flying anywhere over here. Remember, at the 10 freeway. And this is what an entity is doing because they're terrified about what's happening, and what's happening is justice. This is evidence that's going to be publicly available to put terrorists over and under the age of majority on the internet in order to make sure that terrorists are blocked from any area of society where they have no right to be. They have no privacy while they're stalking with this government. There is no equal protection violation. There is no discrimination. They are the entity. This is P.O.C. This is exactly how the P.O.C. is also going to be referenced. The entity has no privacy rights while they're gang stalking like the city of Ontario is. And let's just be very clear. This prosecutes the airport. This prosecutes AMR. This prosecutes the Ontario Fire Department. And the Ontario Police Department are demons who are unhinged, and they are already suicidal. That's why they're engaging in this everywhere that I'm going. Why would you at Hawthorne and Euclid? Again, giving me more and more evidence, which is the entire neighborhood. And I want to be clear, the entire neighborhood are the people of the state. This is a public entity. They maintain no privacy rights regarding any information. It's the government. And since the entity sought to engage in targeting and furtherance of murdering someone, and they, as my evidence shows, they engaged in more and more acts of terrorism, hence years of kidnapping, engaged in criminal activity in my name, defaming my character, stalking me, harassing and psychologically torturing, even sexually violating me where they live, which is underway while the entity is stalking me by helicopter where you live. They're sharing in that P.O.C. and they will be prosecuted. And the P.O.C. is for the multi-purposes of a people, a nation, and I want to be clear, internationally to refer to keep terrorists just like this out, keep terrorists just like this out. They don't have any constitutional protections with regard to being exposed as terrorists. This is P.O.C. The entities engaged in psychopathic pacing up what is Hawthorne. Everybody on this street, which I've documented, are engaged in the pattern of conduct. This is why the entity is stalking as an airport. There's no terminals. There will be nowhere flying over here. And by the way, the Ontario Police Department is engaged in what is the ongoing psychopathic pattern of engaging in terrorism. Moreover, while they're engaging in surveillance. License plate 9 Robert Jerry 517. P.O.C. License 6 Nancy Robert Wendy 976. License 9 Xavier Yolanda Mary 454. All of them threatening my life together, co-conspirators of murder, tracking my steps, which is why the government is stalking me by planes and helicopters in their neighborhood, including in the dark, when I am engaged in what is walking through the neighborhood, walking through the city, which you also know that they're gang stalking because the fake sun and the fake moon is over me at their venues, which are facilitating venues, not private property, and it will be published all over the internet. P.O.C. The entity is engaged in what is years of targeting me through the people of the state where they live, and you will be subject to federal prison. I've been documenting that. That's P.O.C. It is currently 7:34 p.m. This is exactly what's being published, and it's for the prosecution of the people of the state and the prosecution of Paul Leon. License 4 Larry, Uncle Larry 746. License 8 David Wendy 043. License 6 Jerry 59939. And here is the entity that is indeed stalking as a city. This is terrorism that the people of the state share in, the entire city of Ontario. And as I've already shown and historically documented, the city of Upland. This is, in other words, as I show you from place to place, from city to city, including my evidence, which is state to state, The U.S. government is being federally prosecuted, and the entity that are the Nephilim are being hereby removed from the ability to terrorize American citizens anymore. And Mike LORENZ is going to prison for this. And Alan D. WAPNER, I want to be clear, this is the basis of federally prosecuting that entire so-called airport authority and that so-called business board. They're going to be federally prosecuted as terrorists, and the gang stalkers of the Ontario International Airport, those airlines, and the people of the state. It's an elaborate RICO case, and it's a prosecution of the people that are engaging in criminal activity as a public entity. There are no, and justice will not bar, obviously. It is absurd to suggest that you're going to engage in, like they are, stalking, monitoring, surveillance, federal stalking in their homes, which are facilitating venues. As you see, the pattern of conduct is ceaselessly. It's the same at the Ontario Police Department as it is at the venue where I am remaining subject to this P.O.C. on Hawthorne at Euclid Avenue. This is the pattern of conduct, and the government is serving to prosecute thoroughly to the furthest degree of the law the people of the state. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:36 p.m. License 6J59939. The people of the state who are domestic terrorists, co-conspirators of murder, targeting one person together in order to psychologically torture and sexually violate that person, and then want to maintain a mask as though they are law-abiding citizens. All right, as they are upright, noble-worthy, even loving and compassionate families. These are the Nephilim. They're demons. License EN35Z11 paper. And this is evidence the P.O.C. is going to be referenced internationally in order to make sure that the terrorists who are the people of the state in this country are going to be blocked from every area from which they have no protection from that. License 9 Kelly Mary Apple 274. And as an aside, the entity that's stalking by airport and by the helicopter, these are the demons that lack in strategy. They lose self-control and they make stupid decisions. I've been documenting their stupid decisions for years. This is the full prosecution. Only the city of Ontario. This is the prosecution of the U.S. government. 0UD. It's 7:37 p.m. and this is P.O.C. Okay, there are no terminals at Hawthorne, and there are no terminals over the El Pescador. While they're engaged in surveillance, I'm gonna get that stalker's license plate. That's Satan that keeps his back to you while he's stalking. That's the mental illness. That's why there's going to be a database where you can refer to them and know who they are. There's also no terminals over the bucket crab and crawfish that is stalking. They were stalking me at Hawthorne, way north up that, up Euclid Avenue with the Ontario Police Department. What is everybody doing here? They're all stalking. They're all stalking. Let's get the one engaged in this mentally ill psychopath. Both him and the female counterpart are sex offenders obsessed with my vagina. License 9 David Frank Charlie 715. Engaging in psychopathic conduct such as stalking with the airport and their demon-possessed people who are acting in concert. All right? That's the disbanding of the same police department that's stalking me at Hawthorne and Euclid and stalking me through third parties such as N7M25 and El Pescador, where the government is engaged in what is stalking me, including this morning as I documented, El Pescador is a gang stalking venue, a sex offender. The entity using the parking lot that were on and turned them off with regard to targeting me, which is an act of terrorism, and it's also sexually violent, creating light activity on the grounds of the facilitating venue where they are gang stalking and they will be federally prosecuted. This is mentally ill. They're walking through the light, psychopathic pacing while they keep their lights on. These are demons, they're mentally ill. And these are, again, coming from outside of the U.S., gang stalking immigrants, all right? They're going to be deported. They are enemies of the country. Yeah, and knows exactly who I am. That's P.O.C. And this is mental illness. And this is the Ontario Police Department facilitating terrorism. Amongst those, Satan doesn't have linguistic issues. There are no language barriers with regard to the elements of monitoring. They're vagina and they're demons that are gang stalking. And they're doing so with the venue. They're doing so with the government. And this is my shadow that's upright on the truck while I'm standing underneath light. This is P.O.C. 8KGT602, 8XHE315. And here's a gang of my shadows. Here's one here. Here's one in the shade over here. Here's one behind here. Oh, there's another one right next to it. While the demons are engaged in monitoring, while he's speaking the Spanish language, he's monitoring. A black one is exactly who I am. The demon in him is using him, and that demon is also getting him federally prosecuted. C. License 9 P.O.C. 680, and this is the Ontario Police Department's disbanding. They're stalking me at Hawthorne and Euclid Avenue, and they are stalking while the airport is stalking, just like you saw them tag teaming with plane and helicopter at Hawthorne. That's the shutdown of both that gang stalking police department and that gang stalking airport. This is a population. They will be published in the database that is the P.O.C. for any and everyone to refer to exclude terrorists from any and every area, to protect your community, to protect your state, to protect your business, to protect your children, to protect your spouses. They don't have any constitutional protections with regard to being exposed as the terrorists that they are. That's including any business that will be documented, like El Pescador, like the Ovid Family Community Library, like the City of Ontario, like the State of California, like Mike LORENZ, etc., etc. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 8 p.m. This is psychopathic. This is psychopathic pacing with the Ontario International Airport that is stalking me at the Ovid Family Community Library, just like they were at Hawthorne at 1352 Hawthorne and Euclid Avenue in Ontario, much more north up the street. There are no takeoffs. The airport isn't even in alignment. The entity is flying miles to be here, hover over a senior citizen complex, and they flew even farther away to be stalking over while I'm at Hawthorne with the Ontario Police Department. And what you just saw is the mentally ill population who are being prosecuted, and they're being published as terrorists so that internationally they can be exposed and blocked from the areas of society where it will serve to protect you, okay? They're doing so under the fake moon. This is a sex offender license. 9E UK 695, and a population of sex offenders are being published online. They're doing so on behalf of the Ontario Police that's being disbanded, on behalf of the Ontario International Airport that's being shut down, and they are the people of the state that are co-conspirators of murder. They're mentally ill, and that's a demon-possessed person. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaging in psychopathic conduct. This fake moon will follow me wherever it is that I go. Okay, this is the Ovid Family Community Library, where I'm documenting the entity that is indeed going to federal prison. That's why I'm subject to the pattern of conduct looking at the venue. That's why I'm subject to the pattern of conduct in Upland, California. The demons of the Ovid Family Community Library are going to federal prison, including Sean Thrasher. This is P.O.C. While I'm subject to sexual violence, ongoing harassment, terrorism, and mentally ill behaviors under things like a fake moon, the Ovid Family Community Library's fate is sealed. Every demon working inside of that venue. Who are them? All they do is go right inside, stalking. And they're going to federal prison. P.O.C. Alrighty, here you go. The entity is stalking with the amplified audible activity of plane. So it sounds plane activity is sounding while the entity is stalking by helicopter. All right, this appears to be, but this may very well be another plane. This is the entity flying over me. This is the entity that is stalking. And like I saw pointed out to you, this is the very heavily documented 407 and 417 C Street. They are engaged in gang stalking where they reside, and it's a basis of federal prison. Ontario police by helicopter doing the exact same thing, targeting, and the Ontario International Airport targeting. They're doing so under the fake moon that moved from being over me at the Ovid Family Community Library. They're targeting. License 9UCU343. The people of the state are terrorists, and they're going to be federally prosecuted for their engagement in the government's criminal system of surveillance. And they are the mask that a government wears to engage in things such as, oh, there's a murder, oh, there's a missing person, and we're going to investigate. We're going to talk to the people of the state and see if there are any witnesses. And they are engaging in that disappearance. They're engaging in those murders. They're engaging in criminal monitoring, targeting, and they're demons. So it's not a surprise with regard to the character of the people of the state. License 9XYX437. 7ACS628, and they are targeting me, stalking, in front of me at 507 West Vesta. A demon, a psychopath, and that's psychologically harmful, and it's threatening. Where I am at this physical venue, the entity is stalking in the sky space, keeping the specific environment, this psychotic means of stalking in an environment with a fake moon moving all over the place. And the entity is stalking right in my path, as you can see at what is also San Antonio, where they are stalking in the path. That's the Ontario Plaza Apartments. That's fine. I'm documenting everything. They're all being prosecuted. And at 507 West Vesta, stalking in the path with lights. It's keeping their headlights aimed on me. This is the entity that is harassing and threatening you while they're engaging in terrorism, stalking you with light while they're monitoring you, in furtherance of what is murder. There will be no murder. Michael LORENZ is going to federal prison for the ongoing documentation speaking to what he continued to do as an entity and with the people of the state after he was long prosecuted through this public investigation. He's going to be committed. License 4NOY062, 8UON854, 7PNU30, 7PNU350, 8ZAE082, 4DNV008. And this is the body of evidence that's going to be accessible by the public.
the entity that maintains no privacy, and it's not just their license plate, but they don't have any privacy. And regardless, even in the alternate universe where they're engaging in gang stalking as though it's not happening, in the reality, this is the public entity. They don't have any privacy regarding their social security number. This is what you get when you are engaging in criminal surveillance with the government. This is P.O.C. at 417 C Street in Ontario, California. P.O.C. Alrighty, gang stalking at Hawthorne. That was 1352 Euclid Avenue, and this is 224 North Euclid Avenue. And the entity has been engaged in what is psychopathic pacing. So I'm not starting video when they started stalking right now. These diaper-wearing psychopaths engaged in what is stalking, flying over the field, going back over the senior citizen apartment complex where they are stalking. Look at the time. It's 11:46 p.m. where old people are over here, but they're complaining about me being on the side of the library. Remember when Leo engaged in criminal summoning with this department that's stalking? That was an excuse to be in my face with a gun on your hip and a badge on your chest, calling yourself a sergeant, like Sergeant Hall, who's going to prison. She engaged in 2 documented acts of terrorism regarding criminal summoning. She's going to federal prison. While these gang members provide evidence against her, against demons like Leo, against the people of the state, like at 1352 North Euclid Avenue, where the entity is stalking me through the neighborhood at Hawthorne and Euclid, with the airport that's also stalking. The entity's flying over my head in planes, all manner of what is indicating targeting. All right. The ongoing hallmark regarding targeting, as I've shown you in the state of California, is stalking by the gang stalkers that are going by a deceptive misnomer, referring to themselves as law enforcement police officers. And this is not law enforcement. And this is the population that is going to be federally prosecuted. The gang members that are throughout the states are going to federal prison for domestic terrorism. This is P.O.C. And this is the evidence that is putting the domestic terrorist Michael LORENZ. He's not only going to prison, they're going to be subject to mental examinations, routine. The entity that's engaging what is stalking me at Hawthorne and Euclid Avenue is doing so outside of any reasonable basis for any sort of coincidence. They're doing so pursuant to surveillance of my evidence at that, which is going to put demons like Michael LORENZ in prison for a very, very long time. Okay, this is P.O.C. Mike LORENZ and Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, they engaged in targeting. Eric Spencer engaged in targeting while they put money on my head, lying about the fact that I'm alive, getting insurance policies taken out on me, and then the entity that thought that I was going to drop dead by now, or that I was going to be driven crazy by this ongoing unabated program of psychological torture for which Mike LORENZ is going to be federally prosecuted. None of that worked. And so now you're witnessing the documentation regarding the proof of criminal surveillance, which is criminal monitoring by the demon possessed, who engage in psychological torture. That is demonic activity. That's what psychological torture is. This is P.O.C. The ongoing a playlist regarding the psychopathic pacing while they have this pattern of flying in circles around me, like they did right across the street last night, like they did at 1352 North Euclid Avenue today, while I'm coming from Upland, California. The entity's engaging in this, and this is also the evidence that's going to have all the gang members, like Sergeant Hall, like Jay Montez. Jay Montez doesn't have to get out and pace. You know that he's pacing because the people of the state are under that fake sun on B Street. The demons are stalking by helicopter above me on B Street. The fake sun is over me, and Jay Montez is sitting inside of a police vehicle that says Ontario Police. He's engaged in pacing with that entity with impossible light. He is fully engaged in psychopathic pacing, and he will be subject to mental examination just like every other gang member. This is 24-hour surveillance, and they're going to prison. This is what the demons possessed engage in. From that distance, molesting me over here with impossible light, they're targeting. Those are the people of the state that are going to be federally prosecuted as domestic terrorists. They're vagina monitors. They're violent sex offenders. And that is exactly what is necessarily published all over in the database, which shall be the P.O.C., used on an international basis in order to make sure that you can protect your state, you can protect your company, you can protect your community, you can protect whatever it is that you're interested in with regard to this entity that maintains no constitutional rights whatsoever from accessing information about terrorists like Mike LORENZ. And it will also be a matter of what is adjudication, by the way. But you're talking about what you can reference. You can block out the demons if you want to. They have no means of protection from discrimination and equal protection. There is no such thing. But first of all, they're the entity. It's criminal activity in furtherance of murder. They were caught doing it. And moreover, you're going to exclude what are the demon possessed, and everybody knows who they are now. You can literally look them up and bar them, and you don't even have to talk to them about it. This is one of the ways in which the P.O.C. is going to be used. This is psychopathic pacing. They're going to be published all over the internet. They already are. They're going to be published. They are the people of the state. And that is The entity that does nothing other than the government, that does nothing other than incriminate the people of the state, like I said at the outset. This is the implosion of gang stalking. This is the end of what the Nephilim have been doing in this country. This is P.O.C. All right, this is the mentally ill, and they're going by company names: Sarah's Regis Group, Metro 102 Apartments, John Stewart Senior Citizen Senior Citizen Apartment Complex, El Bacone. This is the Mule Cart Smokehouse. This is the entity that's engaging at Wells Fargo. These are company names I'm going to federally prosecute. All right, this is P.O.C. using the channels of interstate commerce. They're stalking on the roads and the highways. They're stalking in the sky space. They're stalking and monitoring on the internet. All right, and they're doing so in the specific environment. All right, it is currently, I want to make sure that this is clear, it's 11:52 p.m. The evidence of the entity stalking me at 1352 North Euclid Avenue, and then following me here to what is 224 North Euclid Avenue, that's the prosecution of the U.S. government. The Ontario Police Department is being disbanded. The airport's being shut down. These terrorist leaders that are at the heads of these departments, including Paul Leon, are being federally prosecuted. This is P.O.C. Criminal summoning as the evidence is going on the internet. This is the department that's being disbanded, and everybody that engaged in criminal summoning is going to prison. This is P.O.C. Flying over my head? Yeah, that's the entity that's engaged in criminal summoning. That is no exercise of authority under the law. This is what they're engaging in while they are stalking the targeted individual, and they know exactly where I'm at. This is mentally ill behavior. That's the department that's going to be federally prosecuted for terrorism and conspiracy to commit murder, which they committed with Tracy Banks, they committed with Eric Spencer, they committed with Jason Fields, they committed with the people of the state, including the demon that they're pulling over. While the exact same criminal activity is underway, 1352 North Euclid Avenue is subject to federal prison for stalking me while they're inside of their third-party facilitating venues. And this is what they're doing because they're desperately fearful of what is still going on the internet right now. They're monitoring on my device, monitoring my Wi-Fi hotspot. All of the evidence, I have hundreds and hundreds of videos of the entity engaging in this very criminal system of criminal summoning. And they're going to be federally prosecuted for it. This is how you're looking at how criminal surveillance is underway by those who are not engaged in law enforcement. No immunity, no protection under the law. There is no police association that has any standing. They are going to be prosecuted as bare bones terrorists. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:55 p.m.
Alrighty, it is 11:59 p.m. This is ongoing continuous documentation. So the video that I captured of the Ontario police that are stalking at the Ontario Town Square on a regular basis are doing so, again, following me from 1352 North Euclid Avenue. This is the chronology of the stalking. Following me at Hawthorne and Euclid Avenue by helicopter, pacing up and down that street, flying in circles around me with the airport also that maintains no flights. This is the entity that is targeting, is stalking at the square, all right? Doing so while I am using my Wi-Fi, the entity, my hotspot. And I want to be clear, the entity went to the extent to disable the El Bacone, that's a facilitating video, disable the Wi-Fi. I took a screenshot of that. So they are anticipating that I won't be able to upload. I pull out my other phone in order to use the Wi-Fi. Immediately, the Ontario Police Department begins stalking by helicopter. These are demons that are very much fearful, yet they're still stalking me by helicopter. Like I said, stalking me by helicopter is not an act of, or show of what is strength. It's a show of force, and it's a show of what is terrorism while they're engaging in that show of force, but it's not a show of strength, okay? And any sort of loser that thinks that stalking somebody and bullying as a police department is a show of strength in the first place is already weird. That's a demon, that's a spirit. But nonetheless, this is what the entity is engaging in while remember, they're stalking me and monitoring me. So as I pull out my phone to turn that on and use my hotspot, the entity starts stalking by helicopter. As I turn on my hotspot and resume after I capture that 5-minute video of the entity flying in circles by helicopter, okay? Then the entity pulls up, engages in criminal summoning. 2 Ontario police vehicles, and they're monitoring in the same exact manner. And I just took a picture of them flying over my head. This is the same thing that you'll see when the entities engage in this with even Tracy Banks. After they engage in removing my video documentation off the internet, after I published the license plates of the people of the state, they are on X engaging in surveillance. They that are the same demons that are stalking as a police department, and they are stalking by maintaining what appears on the surface as supposed to be a traffic stop, and it's not a traffic stop. That department is engaging in the same exact psychopathic conduct of stalking me in helicopters while they conduct what is merely turning on their lights and standing in the path, writing out a citation, which is what they do to me when I commit no crimes whatsoever, no violation whatsoever. It is criminal summoning, and they're going to prison, and they're doing it while they're engaged in federal stalking. Now, what I want you to pay attention to, Sean Thrash is going to prison. This is what C. Gerber is doing under the fake sun. While they're engaging in this stalking, they're blatantly engaging in what is a show of force, terrorizing, psychologically torturing, sexually violating, they're molesting, while they are criminally stalking together in this desperate gang-like method. Don't forget about what they're claiming regarding the Ovid Family Community Library simultaneously. Don't forget about the gang members that circled around me in the morning during the 7 a.m. hour, including the kidnapper, Hadel Shiapani, and they're stating my name when I don't know these demons. There is no open criminal case on me. They're engaged in stalking me. We are not friends, and I do not converse with them. We don't have some open dialogue. They engage in what is my name, stating my name with regard to admission that you are stalking. And that is the case under all circumstances. The entity engages in what is stating my name when they're in that parking lot. When that parking lot, which is across the street where they're engaged in criminal summoning right now, this is during the 7 a.m. hour. And on that same day, by the way, this is all documentation that's on the record, at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that fake sun is still at the same street where they are in the morning referring to the admission regarding my YouTube channel, first of all, that has nothing to do with anything that the government has any sort of legitimate interest in. In fact, it's a threat while you are stalking me and using that as the subject of your audible activity. Not only are you analyzing that, which I already did in the podcast, you're mindful of these details. Sean Thrasher's going to prison. The Ontario police are stalking just like they are now with disregard for any and everything. They're just concerned about me uploading evidence about the stalker who's going to prison at the Stater Brothers parking lot, engaged in serial stalking with the Ontario International Airport, that's stalking here at the Ontario Town Square. Engaged in serial stalking with the Ontario Police Department at that Stater Brothers, and also here at the Ontario Town Square. That third party is going to federal prison while they are gang stalking me, and that's exactly what I'm going to publish on the internet when the entity starts stalking me by helicopter, by the airport, and by criminal summoning the demons that are already stalking. This is how you know how sick they are. They lurk around corners, they sit in dark alleys, they stalk in dark parking garages. I've documented them doing it, and dark parking lots in the darkness, stalking me, crossing paths with me. They do so while they're also on the roads and the highways. They are pulling up with regard to the people of the state that are stalking me under a fake sun all day long. So they're pulling that population over to engage in what is wanting to be as close to me as possible with their lights and sirens on and flying in circles over me by helicopter. What you're mindful of, this is all of that P.O.C. and its criminal summoning. Every time I've documented that, everybody involved, including the ones being pulled over, they're equally engaged in criminal activity. Your citation is evidence of that criminal activity. They're all going to federal prison. They will all be prosecuted as terrorists. The entities engaging in this with regard to the terrorist conduct that the Ovid Family Community Library are engaging in. Okay? There is no activity documented, for example, of them stalking me in the bathroom. They are monitoring in the bathroom on March 2nd. However, there's no documentation, and I did not speak to, because I would have documented it, no pictures of the demons stalking me in the bathroom on March 2nd. No documentation on my podcast because nobody physically entered the bathroom. They were still monitoring, but nobody physically entered the bathroom. So in the letter where the entity is admittedly engaging what is targeting me with regard to manufacturing information, this manufactured information is that which they're trying to use as then a propeller for why it was brought to their attention, my YouTube channel. Remember all of this that I've already spoken about. When in reality, they're stalking just like they are now at the square at 12 o'clock in the morning, doing so with the people of the state who are stalking 24 hours a day. And they're doing so in that specific environment, which proves that the fake moon is over me. The fake sun remains over me all day long. And the entity is engaging in what is stalking by helicopters the moment that they are triggered, the moment that they are engaging in what is seeking to harass and threaten because of the level of proving that they're stalking me that I have, that I provide, that I publish. Okay, this is going to the demons that are going to prison. Not only did nothing happen on March 2nd, like I stated, this is relevant to the entity that's engaging with a surveillance of my evidence, just like what they're doing tonight. This is not a traffic stop. Under the guise of what is a traffic stop, the entity is engaged in criminal monitoring. Psychopaths who are lurking, keeping me under surveillance in police vehicles. That's the prosecution of Paul Leon. The entity that's engaged in this pursuant to a pattern of conduct by this agency, that's the prosecution of Mike LORENZ. The entity that's doing so while I'm documenting the terrorists who are the people of the state, that's the prosecution of those demons, like this third party whose license plate I will recite again. And I'm also going to publish it on X. They are going to federal prison while I'm being targeted, as they are the subject of my documentation, and but for them gang stalking me, the Ontario Police Department, in concert with them, are engaging what are pulling out helicopters as though they are going to shoot me. They're going to swarm around me and kidnap me again and drop bombs on me while I'm documenting stalkers that are targeting with them. Like what you hear in the background, the Ontario International Airport, where we are nowhere near Terminal 2, nowhere near Terminal 4, nowhere near the grounds of the airport, and no planes are taking off at the same venue where the entity is stalking like you can see on video, and stalking like you can see on video using the vehicles of the Ontario Police Department. That is being disbanded. I just want to make sure that that is clear, because those are how all of those analytical angles tie together. Because also the entities engaging in this, and this is relevant to who is going to be documented. I'm going to put them on the internet because they're going to federal prison for stalking with the Ontario Police Department that engages in terrorism via helicopter the moment that I seek to publish the evidence of their criminal activity with the city of Ontario while they're gang stalking at the Ontario Village Shopping Center. And again, that license plate is License 9 Victor Bob Zebra 889 is engaged in criminal monitoring. They're doing so with the city of Ontario at the. They're doing so with the city of Ontario at the Ontario Town. Excuse me, I'm at the Ontario Town Square right now at the Ontario Village Shopping Center, and they're doing so while the entity is stalking me from place to place, just like the Ontario Police Department are at 1352 North Euclid, while I'm walking from Upland, California, into the city of Ontario, and the entity is engaged in psychopathic pacing over my head in that neighborhood where they are stalking me, know exactly where I'm at and what I'm doing, which is why they are flying over that residential area, up and down the street, around in circles, and stalking, just like you hear here at the Ontario Town Square. They're stalking at Hawthorne and Euclid Avenue in commercial planes, which is what I documented. This is what this third party who is going to federal prison is engaging in, and its license plate 9 Victor Bob Zebra 889. The people of the state are engaging in what is that criminal conspiracy to commit murder pursuant to what is preceded by the unabated program of psychological torture. They're going to federal prison. This third party is going to federal prison. This license plate 9VBZ889 for stalking me with the police that are stalking me by helicopter the moment that I seek to publish their evidence, the evidence to put them away in prison. And they're going to federal prison for stalking me with the Ontario International Airport, which is occurring with simultaneity to my publishing evidence and seeking to publish evidence, use my devices while I'm under surveillance, which this third party license 9VBZ889 shares in, which is why I'm subject to more acts of terrorism for which this third party is going to federal prison, while the entity maintains no warrant or probable cause, and they are all subject to what are mental examinations. This is the pattern of conduct that is going to put Mike LORENZ in federal prison. The entity is flying over the top of my head by helicopter while the entity is engaged in the very heavily documented, the malicious tactic of criminal summoning, and you're listening to psychopathic behavior while plane after plane after plane is flying over the El Bacone at the Ontario Town Square at 224 North Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. I'm going to go ahead and take another picture. This is coexisting with the stalking conduct of the Ontario Police Department. This is P.O.C. This is exactly the criminal conduct of the Ontario Police using helicopter. This is the federal prosecution of the Ontario Board, the Ontario Executive Team, and the people of the state. Again, that license plate 9 Victor Bob Zebra 889 is going to federal prison. They're engaged in serial stalking with this city, and the city is engaged in terrorizing me and stalking me in these incredible manners while I document that and while I publish it on the internet, while they keep me and my devices under criminal surveillance in concert with the people that engage in the malicious act of criminal summoning with them in order to stalk me conspicuously, which is an act of terrorism threatening your life, your safety, and your well-being. This is the entity that is going to be disbanded for the mentally ill behavior of gang stalking, which is practiced very heavily and documented as a matter of evidence for years by the Ontario so-called police department. It is currently 12:10 a.m. and it is March 24, 2026. This is relevant to the prosecution of the entity that remains at the Yoba Family Community Library while Marcelo Blanco and the Upland Police Department and the City of Upland are gang stalking. The demons at the Yoba Family Community Library, which provided a written admission regarding their gang stalking me and keeping my evidence under surveillance while they're making up information, just like they're making up a means to stalk me in the path right now, while they're engaging in the same obvious means of targeting by an airport, by helicopter, by the people that stayed on the roads and the highways in that specific environment under the fake moon. They're going to federal prison. Okay, the entities engaging in this, and they do that with the government, literally including Paul Leon and the Ontario City Hall. Paul Leon is being federally prosecuted for what the City of Ontario is doing, and every department within the City of Ontario is doing, while he is also engaging in criminal acts such as funding terrorism and facilitating it as what is a public official that is in office that's engaging in what is a role that is diametrically opposed to the role that he is supposed to satisfy. Any gang stalking by the city police is going to be met with what is the removal of that domestic terrorists referring to themselves as the mayor. There's no mayor and you will not remain in office, but Paul Leon has done more than that. Paul Leon is engaged in that criminal conspiracy, profiting off of the conspiracy to murder me and engaging in that with that Ontario Police Department and the people of the state. I want to repeat that license plate. This third party is going to federal prison for what the City of Ontario is committing against me while they are gang stalking me with this entity. It's license 9 Victor Bob Zebra 889, documented on the website. In the Google Drive, and will be put it on X right now. I'm going to go ahead and publish using my hotspot, which is what caused all of this chaotic conduct, which is psychologically harmful, which the entity is going to compensate me for, and they're also going to prison for it. Okay, this is the P.O.C. And the entity is going to federal prison for what this third party is engaging in, and this is speaking to the domestic terrorists that are the people of the state who maintain no privacy. This is exactly why all of their information, including their social security numbers, whatever it is that you have in order to identify terrorists who are a threat to the American people, and that's exactly what is underway. They are the government. They are the entity. That's why the entity is stalking me by police, stalking me as an airport, stalking me as a population, while I identify one little, excuse my French, pissant who is going to prison. His license plate is 9 Victor Bob Zebra 889, a serial stalker who is necessarily identified for all the world to know about, while they're engaged in the un-American conduct of being a domestic terrorist inside of the United States, identifying terrorists that are inside of this country. And that's what is the purpose of the P.O.C., which will be used as a database where you can literally refer to it and identify demons that you do not have to include in any regard in your business, in your community, with regard to any sort of means where they are seeking some sort of means of acceptance. They have to apply for it, or they have to be admitted in some way. That's to any institution. That's to any government program. They are going to be denied, and they don't have any rights to contend with that. And this is the entity that's engaged in this very conduct. License 9VBZ889 is the entity. And the entity is being exposed while they are engaging in terrorism in the United States. And these domestic terrorists in the United States are being publicly exposed. And it is utilizing the P.O.C. to do that. All right. And it's also going to be, like I stated before, a matter of what is an adjudication, case law, established criminal charges, which are turning into convictions, where they also don't maintain any rights. But even right now, the entity is engaged in what is an ongoing malicious system. And that entity that's engaged in that, they're being prosecuted for it, and they're being exposed for that. Like any other foreign terrorist whose information you would post and make sure everyone knows about regarding a threat that they pose, that's exactly what is underway in the state of California and in these United States, where the Nephilim are engaging in terrorism, and they are seeking to murder and kidnap you. And while they have failed to do that to me, you are understanding what is the criminalization of this ongoing demonic system. They're not police officers. They're not pilots. They are not American citizens with regard to what are private citizens. They are the people of the state. They are the entity that's engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. And domestic terrorists maintain no privacy whatsoever. And any and everything that you have about them is imperative to make sure you publish, to expose them for what they are and the threat that they pose to American people, to the American people. And that's exactly what the service that the P.O.C. provides. It is currently 12:15 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and take another picture. This is ongoing conspicuous surveillance by the Ontario Police Department, for whom the third party license 9VBZ889 You can thank the Ontario Police Department for adding more time to federal prison. You're a serial stalker. You are going to federal prison for gang stalking me with this agency, with the City of Ontario, and for doing so while keeping my evidence of you stalking me and further into murdering me under surveillance. You're going to federal prison, and that is a matter of what is precedent that's going to be established regarding dealing with all terrorists like the people of the state that are being exposed in California. It's 12:16 a.m. This is P.O.C.